All right, everybody, welcome. We're at the Setting the Space Plymouth Rock TV Studios in Kingston, Mass. It's the Kingston Collection. And we're so thrilled to be part of the Setting the Space family because, as you can see, we have a beautiful set here. There's a gorgeous furniture store, and everything that you see, except from the guest and myself, is for sale. I guess maybe I'm for sale. I'll say that. I don't know about our guest here, but I am for sale. So if you like anything you see, hey, come on down and make an offer, and we'll take all offers. So we love to have conversations here, especially with people from the New England area who are doing some pretty special, incredible things. And I always admire when somebody has the opportunity to put pen to paper and to get their creativity out in the form of word. And Christy Cashman, writer, actress, producer, entrepreneur, philanthropist. You do just about everything. I saw dancer on Instagram. You were dancing. So you do quite a bit. Yep.
Everyone's envious of my dance moves.
I don't know if I could ever mimic them. They were very interesting. You could check her out on Instagram and judge for yourself. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me again. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. The last time we were together, it was a few years ago. It was A Million Degrees at a fair. One of your books about Kilkee Castle.
It was a children's book. The not so average monkey of Kilkee Castle.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And we had a lot of fun. It was hot, very hot. Here we are today to talk about The Truth About Horses, which is a book that at first glance I thought it was about horses, but really it's a coming of age story about is trauma the right word, or overcoming?
Oh, yeah.
Would you say that?
There's a lot of trauma. And it is a coming of age book. Actually, I'm number 8 on Amazon.
Congratulations.
Teen fiction coming of age stories, which is kind of a big category. So I was excited about that. But I think in order to get the story across that I wanted to get across, there had to be some trauma. I mean, I think, unless there's something pretty significant that happens within the first 10 or 15 pages, people tend to lose interest. And I mean, I love a great story that talks about what makes people tick and sort of the state of being human and conflicted, and I love that. But I'm always looking kind of for an arc, and what does the character learn in the process of what they've gone through. And I worked a long time on it, and structure is a big part of working on a novel. And I was grateful for a lot of classes that I took. I was grateful for being able to understand structure, because I think it's almost like another part of your brain that has to work on it. It's the scaffolding of the story, the structures. And it was, the structure, I think, for me was important to have the trauma.
Well, I don't know how deep we'll get into the conversation, but I kind of have been looking at life lately like if we're in a matrix or something and we're on the outside looking in, and when you take stories and you can detach yourself from it and look at the story as a whole, we can process it as entertainment and the story arc and whatever else. But then when we look at our lives, we say, interesting lives include traumatic situations, ups and downs, and in a way, it's an interesting look at anyone's life. Was that based on anything, like anything in particular? Did it come from your imagination, or was it more of life experience, or what would you say?
Well, so the character of Reese, who's the protagonist, isn't necessarily me. She is maybe a version of me, a part. We all have these parts. She's like the outspoken, maybe bratty part that I had to sort of suppress a lot when I was growing up, because my family was pretty strict. My parents were very strict, and maybe I wrote her part as being particularly sassy, because I think that's a fun character, and we see her thoughts, which are, I think, kind of typical of teenagers being a little bit judgy and having their own little world that they think, if you think any other way than they think, then you're weird. You're a weirdo. And she's a horse person, and so a lot of her talk is about, well, horse people really are this, or horse people.
And you are a horse person.
This way, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in some ways, that was a lot of fun because I could put parameters around the world by making it, a horse-centric kind of world, and that's nice as a writer to be able to have to have parameters, because I can't use a lot of say like urban language. I can't use a lot of it automatically creates a boundary, and it's nice to do that when you're creating, because sometimes too many options are not great for writing. I like to have a framework, and the world created the framework. The fact that it was set in South Dakota, automatic framework for her growing up in a world of horses. Her parents were trainers, and then just the age range, that she's a 14-year-old.
I think that it's hard for even myself. I write a lot, to think that I can even write through the eyes of a 13-year-old girl. So I think it's always a challenge for anybody to write based on a character that doesn't include themselves a little bit, what I mean? Because you're pulling from your own experiences. And, I know in the Cashman Triangle, you're in North Carolina, Boston, and Ireland, right? And you have horses, right? You have horses. Are they local, or do you have them down in North Carolina? Or?
So luckily I get to live with them in the summer. They come and stay at my house in Chatham. We have a small little summer barn there, which is pretty cool because they have to come across on a barge across Pleasant Bay. And those are my favorite months because I get to go out and take care of them and see them every day. And then, of course, living in Boston, I have to board them, and they're boarded in on the North Shore in Hamilton. So, and then I get to have my experience over in Ireland, where I ride there, which is pretty special. I've been going over there, I can't believe it, but for almost 30 years now. So
wow.
I know, I can't believe it. It became a part of my life at a really young age because of horses.
Right, yeah. And I did overhear you making an offer to come visit there at some point. So I definitely will take you up on that. That's a special. It's a bucket list. I see a lot of it following you on social media, and the Kilkee Castle on on Instagram and things.
But Nilosek is not Irish, is it?
Nilosek originally. I dropped it's like Shaquille O'Neal, But my wife is Irish. I guess we all, if you're from Boston,
right?
Oh,
if you're from Boston, it's definitely,
I have Celtics boxer shorts, so that's got to put me in some sort of category.
Oh, that's for sure, yeah. Just wear those on the plane on your way over.
I was a stand-up comedian for a long time, and I used to have a joke that I was Polish and Irish, which meant I was too stupid to know when to stop drinking. So that was my, I'm glad you laughed at that, because not many people did, hence me sitting here with you at this point and not doing...
It's a good one.
Oh, thank you very much. So, you, as a writer, how did you start with that? I mean, was it just come as an idea, like I'm going to write a book and sit down, and you had a little? Did the story come first? Like, I'm always curious in the creation process. You're horseback riding, and just an idea pops into your head, or did you say, I want to write a coming of age story for a 13-year-old? Let's start with who the character. How did it start?
Yeah, well, it took me a really, really long time to get the confidence to think that I could write the story. In fact, I had to trick myself and say that I was signing up for classes to write a treatment to give to a real writer to write a screenplay, which I thought that was the direction, because that was more my background. At the time, I had a company called St. Air Productions, and I was optioning screenplays, I was reading books and optioning books and that kind of thing, and trying to get into that business. And I did a little bit, I did some producing, but in the interim, I read a lot. And I read a lot of really bad screenplays, and I thought, well, I can write a bad screenplay just as well as anybody else. And I did. I did write a couple of really bad screenplays. But then I think in the process of learning what the film world was about, I felt like maybe my skill set wasn't best for that arena, because it's very, you really have to be collaborative when you work on a film. And when you decide to take a story from script to screen, it's a real collaborative effort, which is fine and it's great. But at the end, sometimes the vision isn't, the vision you started with isn't what you end up with. There's that story, that line, there's the story that's the screenplay, there's the story that they shoot, and then the story that they edited. And they're usually 3 different stories. So I think what happened with me is that I thought, I really felt like I had something to offer creatively, and I felt like I had a voice as a storyteller, but I was also really scared about developing it because of all the, because it's just scary. It's scary to kind of put yourself out there, and so I thought it would be safer to write a book, which is silly. It's not. Because it's all you, when you write a novel, it's all you, and you've taken the sort of collaborative idea of creating, and it's not there any longer. That's what happened with me. And after all is said and done, I am so glad that I did it, because I'm proud of the story, but I'm mainly proud that I took on the challenge, because it's not, as you said, it's not easy. It's not easy, first of all, just to carve out the time. It's not easy to want to learn the craft, because I think everybody sets out in some ways thinking they know everything, and it's hard to do anything with that mindset, to say, you've got to be able to almost let the process teach you, and that's what I felt like. Maybe that was the best thing I did, is I allowed the process of writing to teach me how to write. And I'm trying to recreate that again with my second book, and I'm having a little trouble. It's not, it's not as easy. It's got its own, whole set of other complications.
And I imagine too, there's never a point where you go, I'm done, other than the fact that you send it to a publisher or send it to a printer or whatever, and then that makes it done because you've already printed it off. But if you were to just keep looking at it, you would keep thinking of little tiny things, adjustments or what have you. And
there were, when I first sent it to a publishing company, it's a hybrid publishing company I went to, which means that it's a conventional publishing as well as being as well as being self-publishing. So you're kind of partnering with them. And the first draft that I sent them, they were like, "Oh, this is done. You're gonna, we should go ahead and publish it." But I took another 6 months at least to edit it, because I didn't think it was done. I'm so glad that I did. At least it might have been more like 9 months. From
the first moment you had the idea until it was done, how long of a process was that? A few years?
9 years.
9 years.
Yeah. From the time that I had the idea, I first signed up for a class in 2014, and the book came out in 2023. So.
And knowing your background, I'm sure you were also probably thinking how it would translate to a movie script, into a TV show or a movie. Or
well, Jane Seymour optioned it,
okay.
And so she's convinced that it's going to be a movie or a series or something, and so I love that. I'm excited that she feels that way. I mean, clearly, my background in film and stuff and reading a lot of screenplays did pay off. It took a while but it paid off in my writing. And obviously I'm I think a visual writer,
So who is the actress that you pictured you must have pictured Reese to be someone. You have to imagine a face and a look
as I was writing it was just a young Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, okay.
Because she is Reese, in a way. It was right before she did Election. She was this little bratty teenager from the South who, remember, she goes, "You look like you've been beaten by the ugly stick."
Oh, right, yeah.
What was that?
I love her in Four Christmases and, the sort of the modern stuff and the Daily Show. I think that the one on Apple TV, with Steve Carell.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
So
anyway.
Basically, it's a young Reese Witherspoon, whoever that is, and I'm out of the loop. I wish I could tell you. I've had a couple of people suggest some actresses, and But I just don't know. I'm not in that loop, really.
Early in my career, I was in development at HBO, and I was the assistant to the director of development. Yeah. And so pretty low on the totem pole. But you would be the first line of defense in reading submissions and scripts and things.
Oh, yeah.
And then if it got past an idiot like me to go to the next level, I would read through it and then hand it over. But one of the lessons that I've always told anybody is that you have to completely, if you write a story about a 13-year-old girl on horseback dealing with this, it might end up being it's a 40-year-old guy on motorcycles, because movies
zombies.
Go on those.
With zombies.
Yeah. Yep.
Big reason I chose to write a book as opposed to a screenplay.
Yeah.
Now, if anybody wants to take it and make it, they can put zombies and vampires and all that in. But I at least have the book, and it's all mine.
Well, you got this beautiful castle in Ireland, and you've got the land and the horses. You got all the set design. Maybe
actually, that's not a bad idea to try to shoot it over there. Just re-stage it for there. I thought of that. I was driving here. As I was driving here, I was like, maybe it's time to sort of ask around there and see, because it's such a, the horse culture there it goes to the very beginning of, the country. So I feel like maybe there's something to be said for that.
The hardest part is what you already did, the creative side of things. And I think that there are, we live in a very exciting time with technology to be able to shoot things a lot less costly. I think back, I rented a helicopter at one point to shoot a promo for a school that I can do with my drone now, and it looks 10 times better.
Right.
And so there's just so many technical advantages that we have that maybe that could be it. It could be a web series or something.
There's no reason it couldn't be shot, anywhere where there's horses, really.
Exactly. So, your love of horses comes when you were a kid, right?
Oh my gosh.
a athlete?
So passionate.
Were you competing or anything like that, or was it just fun?
No. We had horses in our backyard. I'm one of 10 kids. Mm-hmm. So, my parents discouraged going out for sports because it would have been driving around. It would have been driving out around all day. Yeah. It was enough that, when we moved to North Carolina from Ohio and my horse was born when I was 9 years old, it was enough. It felt like I was always asking for the, a miracle to happen just to stop and see my horse. And, because my mom would have to wait in the car and she did it. It wasn't a big deal, but it was a lot of, anytime you had something that you were passionate about, it was asking a lot in that big family, because there were a lot of people to consider.
Oh, I know you have dogs too. Are you an animal person in general? I mean, would you do you find that you have a connection, some sort of spiritual animal?
Yeah, I love
energy?
Horses, dogs, and chickens. Rabbits, some, but.
You love chickens.
Love chickens.
I've heard people say I love chicken.
No, chickens as in chickens. I mean, I love chicken too, but I also love chickens as we have chickens, and I wrote one of the first screenplays that I wrote that ended up getting made was a story about a chicken farmer.
Oh.
Called Parker Posey's in it. It's The Love Guru. It's not great. But
The Love Guru. With.
Sorry, The Love Guide. The Love Guide.
Okay, The Love Guru. I was thinking with Mike Myers.
Even I don't know the title.
Mike Myers. It was like a. If you remember that one, that was an awful movie. I was almost going to be like, I don't remember the chickens.
That one.
Okay, so The Love. What was
Guide.
it? The Love Guide. Yeah. And about a chicken farmer.
Yeah, but that script changed a lot after I wrote it because other people got involved, and in some ways that did not end up being the story that I shot, and I didn't have the confidence to sort of stand up for myself, creatively speaking, and say, hey, no, that changes the whole thing, or you've kind of taken the heart of it out. In some ways that happens, and there was a heart to that story that kind of got dismissed in a way, or passed over.
Well, we're here with Christy Cashman, author and good friend and New England resident. Would you call New England home?
Absolutely. I've only been here 28 years. So
okay, perfect. And we're talking about her I would say brand new book, but it's number 8 on the Amazon charts.
That's right.
Climbing the charts. We'll get to number 1 by Christmas, I'm sure. And we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back with more. I want to ask where the name came from for the book.
You'll have to read the book to know where the name
well,
came from.
I've read enough to know that it's not technically about horses. I mean, if you're a,
horses are the backdrop for the story.
We'll come right back and we'll talk about this. So we'll be back.